use this as an opportunity for transformation. Who better to ask than the amazing New York Times best-selling author of the Book of Veganish and many, many other books. So many, we'd be here for an hour just mentioning the number of books that this extraordinary woman has written. We're talking about Kathy Freston. Take it away. Kathy, what can people do when they are trapped at home to transform their lives, their lifestyle, and their diet?
Thanks, Jane, for that. I really appreciate that. So right now the house is on fire, and it's very hard to, drill down and get really tuned into the solution when everyone's so nervous about just, am I going to have enough food? Am I going to have enough toilet paper? So I'm just saying, I get that. I hear you. I see you. I respect that. I went through a little bit of that myself and raided the grocery stores. But now that we're at home and now that we have all this time, I think it's a really good time to start thinking about what we do as consumers and how we affect the greater world. Because this is us, this is humans that have created this beast, right? We have created this beast because of our hunger for meat, our hunger for dairy and eggs. And we would do well to start thinking about our addiction, why we're so drawn to this kind of food, and why we're so unwilling to give it up. And I know a lot of your viewers and a lot of you who are listening who are already there, but we have family members, we have friends, we have people we're cooped up with who don't necessarily get this. And so I think it's a really good time to just take in the information, watch some good documentaries, What the Health, Forks Over Knives, Game Changers. All of this stuff is streaming. And so it's a great time to invite your family and your friends to watch with you. You know, obviously don't invite anyone into your home, but to like have a viewing night where you guys get together and you watch a good documentary and you discuss it afterwards. Because the more we understand the fallout from eating animals, the more rapidly we're going to wake up. And so you have a captive audience, your family members, your friends. I know I'm on a Zoom with a big group of friends, and I'm going to propose that we all watch it. It's like having a book salon, a book club, so we can have a documentary club and really watch and talk about the fallout from eating meat. Now that's about eating meat and how it causes heart disease, type 2 diabetes, a lot of forms of cancer, obesity. There's no documentary yet about how, in the mainstream on Netflix, no documentary about really this COVID-19 coronavirus and how it came to bear and how it could really hurt civilization. So it's a really good time to start exploring our connection to meat and what it's doing to the planet and to us as humans.
Now, you mentioned documentaries. Jane Unchained has a documentary on Amazon Prime called Countdown to Year Zero, which explains the connection between animal agriculture and climate change and how it's arguably the leading cause of the climate change catastrophe, habitat destruction, wildlife extinction, human world hunger, and human disease. And now we can add the coronavirus crisis as well. And by the way, if you're looking for a little upbeat education and fun, we also have a new vegan cooking show on Amazon Prime called New Day, New Chef. It's a new day. You can be a new chef. And this is a very fun, upbeat, lighthearted way to learn a whole bunch of plant-based recipes. Basically, what we do is we take traditional comfort foods like tacos, pizza, deviled eggs, wings, etc., and we veganize them for you. It's real easy. It's something to watch while you're at home. New Day, New Chef. Now, what I'd like to say is that this cocooning really is an opportunity for transformation. People are starting to say, Kathy, that even though it's scary and we have to acknowledge and have compassion, tremendous compassion for the trauma, the suffering, the job losses, the illnesses, even the deaths and the fear, Also in crisis, there is opportunity for transformation. For those who don't know, this began in a meat market in Wuhan, China, something the mainstream media doesn't talk about a lot, but it was the Wuhan seafood market where they also sell wild animals, including bats. It's believed to have started with bats and jumped from animals to humans. These live markets have been controversial for years, but they're all over the world. There are live markets in California and in New York. There was just a demonstration against 85 live markets in New York City. And people say, well, that's different. They don't sell wild animals. First of all, that's not the point. Secondly, how do you know that? We have spotted, I've seen with my own eyes, hares, turtles, frogs. We don't know whether those animals are wild or not. So, Kathy, as we are here cocooned in our homes, only going out, for example, for me to walk the dogs, then carefully wiping everything when I get back, is this also an opportunity to reevaluate our lifestyles and decide, hey, when this is over, do I want to take some of the things I've learned about not over consuming, about transitioning to a plant-based diet, because a lot of people are buying plant-based because you get cans of food, about kindness to our planet, tolerance of other species, even squirrels that live in our midst, and change and emerge a more evolved species, Kathy.
Yeah, well, that is our opportunity. And that's sort of our mandate as human beings, is to evolve and to transcend who we were yesterday and generations ago. And I totally get that tradition is so important and food is part of tradition. I've struggled with my own family about Thanksgiving and the turkey, and really there's so much emotion attached to tradition. So I get that. I'm a Southern girl who grew up on, wings and barbecued ribs and all of that stuff. But we as humans have to be rational, and we have to ask ourselves, does this kind of diet work for us in this day and age? And the answer clearly is no. We're getting so sick from eating meat and dairy and eggs. We're getting so polluted. The climate change, the using up the water, the resources of the E. coli, the salmonella from chickens, from eggs, and Campylobacter. All these diseases, all these things come from our desire to eat animals. It's animal agriculture. I think one of the hardest things now is that this started in a Chinese market. And it's very hard for us over here to criticize another culture, because that's what they've been doing for eons. Just like we have been eating hot dogs, we have been eating turkey at Thanksgiving, we have been eating burgers on the weekend. That's their tradition, that's their culture. So it's very hard to sort of call out another culture for what they're doing, because we as Americans are pretty much doing a lot of the same stuff. And I know that's hard to hear, because no one likes to think of themselves as contributing to such horror. And that's where the disconnect is. We have a hard time actually connecting the dots, because we don't want to think of ourselves as part of the problem. So now when we're in quarantine, we can sit back and think, you know what? I'm just going to explore this. I'm not going to make any judgments. I'm not going to call out another culture or another people, but I'm going to take responsibility in my life. I'm going to educate in a very kind way the people around me through watching documentaries like your documentary on climate change. And I'm going to take this stuff seriously, because my mother is now in danger of getting really sick. My two brothers are in danger because their health is compromised. So this is now really personal, whereas some people would say, oh, climate change, I can't really see it. I'm in beautiful wherever, and it just hasn't hit me yet. It's starting to hit people, obviously. And now, you start to have people come down with certain kinds of cancer and diabetes, and it's starting to hit home, but the education needs to be constant. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that it's up to us to evolve and to tweak our traditions. We have to think, I really want to enjoy Thanksgiving. I really want to enjoy burgers on the weekend. I really want to enjoy barbecue. What can I do to veganize that? Which is why I love, love, love your show, because you're doing all of those things. You're showing all the fun stuff, your comfort food, and how to make it plant-based. But at the same time, the Chinese, this is their tradition. And it may seem disgusting and gross, and it is, frankly, but so are slaughterhouses in the United States. We want to make sure we don't encourage them to industrialize the markets that they have. Can you imagine if they start breeding in captivity these animals so that it becomes an even wider practice? I think that it's really important just to remember a very simple slogan, that meat kills. Meat kills. It kills the animals. It kills the humans who handle them. It kills our health. It's killing our planet. Meat kills. And so the more we can do to share that information in a very kind way and not like assault people, the better. And one thing I want to say about the media not covering it, I think this is where protest organizations are amazing, and protests. And I know, Jane, you're so great with all of that stuff. Media covers protests. They cover like what's out there in the ether. So the more that we show an interest, the more that we back organizations who are showing up. I know it's not possible right now for us to physically show up, but if there's a Chinese organization that they're protesting, that's what the media covers. Not necessarily, the media gets their cues from what people are saying.
I can't agree with you more. Very profound. And I do want to say one thing. They say when you've saved a life, you've saved the world. Well, Kathy, you'll appreciate this. Because of the coronavirus crisis isolating everyone, a lot of the shelters are in crisis. The animal shelters here in the United States. And Beagle Freedom Project, beaglefreedomproject.org, has a program where if you agree to foster a dog, they will get that dog to you. And I decided to foster this little girl.
Oh, so rude.
A 12-year-old. Oh. And she is 12 years old. Her name was Red, but I think we're calling her Tiny Dancer. And she's just a little angel, and she's getting along great with my 3 other Chihuahua mixes and my cat.
Wow.
But, this crisis has hurt animals in other ways. They suffered from being the source of the crisis when animals were killed in a seafood market where it all began. Yeah. And now, unfortunately, animals are suffering in shelters where their shelters are being overloaded. So I would ask everyone, just FYI, while we're talking, that if there's a way that you can foster, I might become a failed foster, as they say.
I have that feeling, Jane. I have that feeling.
Too darn cute, this 12-year-old. But if you can do that, that's something also that you can do. So check out beaglefreedomproject.org. They have an application process. And the other thing is that the laboratories around the country that test on animals are closing down, and they have a choice either to kill all those animals because people cannot go in to feed them, or to release them to Beagle Freedom Project. And that's something else. I mean, the reason I'm talking about this is that it is affecting every single aspect of our society. We certainly know about the stores and the more obvious things, but even on that level where you wouldn't necessarily think about it, wow, all these laboratories that have animals in them. And of course, I don't believe in animal testing. I don't think we're animals. We don't have tails and snouts, and it's generally proved ineffective for drugs. But there's another example. I mean, what is your take? I don't even know what state you're in right now. What is your take on how our society literally is being forced to contract, and it's almost paralyzed?
Yeah, well, we are being forced to look at these things, and it will continue, and it will get more and more in our face if we don't pay attention to it, because that's the way it is. And if you look at cultures who have died out in the past, it's because they didn't heed the warning signs, and it was often about a change in climate and they didn't get enough food and everything. But we are not heeding the warnings right now. And I think that this is the time that we have an opportunity to trace the origins of this terrible virus. And we can also look at Ebola and know that that came probably from bats. And we can look at, E. coli that is coming from cows and slaughterhouses. We can look at all kinds of diseases, and we can really start thinking that this is the time to change, because trust me, if we don't change now, it's going to get worse. This virus, God willing, may go away in a month. It may mutate, it may die out. It may take 18 months. We don't know. But it is definitely not the last virus that's coming our way. It will happen again, and it will happen worse. It's just a matter of time. So this is a collective call for us as humans to say, this is not working. Our way of living is not working anymore. And that's happened before. It's happened, the priests used to sacrifice animals at the altar because they were talking to the gods. People were used as slaves. They still are, but we largely know that slavery is wrong now. Women are equals in most places in the world. So things have changed, but it takes a groundswell of recognition. And I think this virus is sort of not tapping us on the shoulder, but, tweaking us on the nose. Like, this is serious and it's going to get worse. This one may go away, but there'll be another one. And if you read up on Ebola and SARS and MERS, these things, it's just a matter of time. They're zoonotic diseases. They're going to jump from animals to humans. We have to start realizing we need to leave animals alone. We need to let them be in their own environment. Animals never did anything to us. They don't want any, they just want to eat in peace. They want to raise their young. They want to, if they have wings, they want to fly. If they have legs, they want to walk around. They want to, eat. They're not selfish. They're not greedy. This is a real opportunity for humans to examine our character as a species. And if we don't, it's going to get louder. And that's up to us.
I think your words of wisdom are so important at this time. I can tell you that a lot of people are starting to notice, again, with respect to those suffering. This is not an either or. We can have compassion and try to help those suffering and still look at the possible positive benefits of this crisis in terms of being a learning experience, as well as there are now drone shots and satellite shots of rivers and other canals around the world clearing up. There are shots of pollution diminishing. So just because we've been indoors as a global community for a couple of days, we're already starting to see some positive changes. We're seeing wild animals come out. A friend of mine in New York said, I've seen wild animals in Central Park where she was walking her dogs while self-quarantining, just go out to walk her dogs. It's like nature is coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, this is our planet too. Mm-hmm. And so there are a lot of changes that are occurring. Right. And, just the fact that nobody's driving has reduced, obviously, the fossil fuel imprint that fewer people are driving. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are saying, I was on a group meeting for something completely unrelated to what we're talking about, but it had gone online. And people were saying, there's a serenity I'm getting. There's a sense of peace and quiet. I'm looking at the sky. I'm meditative. I'm not jumping in my car, frantically riding here and there. Maybe we should do this online permanently. Yeah. So do you see a cultural shift where a lot of the things that we were doing, I mean, we have the internet at this time. In prior crises of this nature, the internet was not what it is today. We can take a lot of the stuff and put it online, and we can really transform our society to lower our carbon footprint when it comes to fossil fuels and also when it comes to eating animals. Kathy?
We can do that. And that's, fear is driving that. We're afraid. We are afraid we're going to get sick. We're afraid our older parents and grandparents are going to get sick. Our vulnerable friends and family are going to get sick. So fear is driving this. And that's very effective, but it's going to pass. And so I think the thing to also think about is maybe it's time to shift in a good way. And maybe the culture is at a place now that it has never been before. And we're kind of ready. And by ready, I mean things like Beyond Meat, Impossible Burgers, Field Roast, all these plant milks, all these Miyoko's cheese and Kite Hill yogurt, all of these amazing foods are available. It's huge here in the States, certainly in a lot of cities, and it's getting bigger by the day. And I think that there are beginning to be a lot of products over in Asia as well and all over the world. I think the more we put our focus into supporting these companies to provide alternatives, because most of us are unwilling to give up our favorite things because it's just too uncomfortable. We like things to taste good. We like things to feel, what they've been like for generations, and we enjoy doing stuff with our families and our friends, and we don't want to be bothered. I mean, people watching here are willing to be bothered and going the extra mile, but as a whole, as a culture, we don't take those steps. So the more we support these companies and get the word out that there's alternatives, and I think that hopefully in Asia they have the same uprising of all these amazing foods, it's going to displace the old way, because this is an old way. Eating meat is old school. It's dated. It doesn't work anymore. It's causing too many problems. It's costing money, and money speaks. It's one thing that we're worried about our family and our friends and all that stuff, but the freaking economy is collapsing, and it will happen again. And whether we can weather this storm, I hope, but maybe the next one or the one after we won't. So now there's moneyed interest seeing that meat doesn't work. It's a system of eating, a way of eating that just doesn't work anymore. It's killing people. It's warming the atmosphere. It's causing so much unhappiness. And investment-wise, things are going to start shifting. So I'm hoping that there's some way to, protest over in the wet markets in China. But I think we also need to respect that we also are not doing things so well over here in our country. And we just need to keep remembering that meat kills on so many levels. And I love what you're doing with your show, because it's all about fun ways to replace it. And you don't have to miss out on anything. That's crucial.
So while you were talking, I got a Bloomberg alert that said about a third of our entire country is staying at home. We're a country of 320 million at least. And my wish is that, Kathy, the way you deliver the message, because it's not just about the message, it's how it's delivered. You deliver the message in a way that corporate America could really understand. And if I could have one wish, I would have you in front of the board of Google, of Microsoft, of Apple, of NVIDIA, of AMD, in front of all these technology leaders, because they're on the forefront of change. And when they get it, they will be able to implement the change. Talking to government right now, I don't think is really a good use of our time. And so I think that if there was any way that because specifically the way you deliver the message is not threatening to those corporate folks, and they can hear you. And, it's the medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan said. We have to speak in their language. Right now, this is a financial crisis, and it doesn't matter how much money you made in the last 3 years, because it's back to where it was before 3 years ago. And it doesn't matter what your plans are to come out with a new product if you can't manufacture and sell that new product because the supply chains have broken down.
Yeah.
This is nature's message to us that we need to fundamentally change how we're doing things. And the way that changes is through business. Do you have any possibility of being able to reach some of those thought leaders in business to get this message across? Because obviously I'm watching cable news, and I see that people are so wrapped up in the minutia, they can't see the forest for the trees. Sure, we need masks. Sure, we need ventilators, but that's not the answer. The answer to this global problem ultimately is to look at the source, which was a meat market in China, which was the same source. SARS was also began in a meat market in China, a different one in a different province, but a meat market in China. And we had mad cow disease. We had the pig virus, which is still decimating herds in China. We have the avian flu. The commonality is animals, and it would be so easy. The two entities that I think are the most important to talk to are the Chinese government, because they could institute, for example, going to plant-based pork like that. China's the biggest pork consumer in the world. If they just instituted that, let's face it, most people are eating it minced up. They have a new pork that tastes just like pork. I don't know what pork tastes like. I've been vegan 23 years, and before that I was vegetarian, but they say it tastes just like it. If we got one of these governments to transition, first of all, they would take the lead as the global leader in government. And secondly, they would obviously set an example for everyone else. So those are my two hopes: corporate America and China.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, corporate America and China, but it takes culture leaders in those specific places. So in China, it would take someone who's Chinese, who's an influencer, someone who people really respect and like, to really say this in a way that is respectful to their culture. Because coming from an American, they're not interested in hearing it. Just like if someone came over from another country and told us that we were bad for doing X, Y, and Z, we'd be like, who are you to say? You know? So it just takes people in their own culture. And that's why it's like, it's good activism to in here where we are, is to speak to people with respect and to know that we're going through our own stuff too. I'm certainly not anywhere close to being perfect. I mean, I'm totally vegan, but I'm just saying, when we speak respectfully to people, they're more likely to listen. So I think in terms of a message in China, it has to come from someone who's Chinese, who's living in China, and who really understands it and wants the best for their country, and to say that this is not making us look good. We've crashed the entire world economy. We started it here. It's embarrassing. It's really like, it's not the face that we want to show the world. We are forward thinking, because they are in some ways. China is so forward thinking. So we want to be leaders in this, and that has to come from someone who's Chinese and who can, respectfully dialogue with leaders of Chinese companies and Chinese government, just like it would be the same over here in America.
So what about corporate America?
Corporate America, yeah, that's happening, and that's because of the financial benefit from moving away from dairy, eggs, and meat production and toward plant-based milks. If you look at a couple of dairies have gone belly up and they've become plant milk producers, that's a simple matter of what's going to make us money. It doesn't necessarily come from an ethical place. It comes from a financial place. Trust me, when people are losing their shirts, they're losing their family farm or their business, it's not necessarily about, oh, I want to do something good in the world. Hey, that's great. And a lot of people do that, and I respect that. But for a lot of people, it is survival. And the writing is on the wall now that it's too expensive. It's too expensive to keep producing dairy and to keep producing meat and these viruses happen, and they have to cull all these animals. They have to cull all these chickens or pigs. It just is not making sense anymore. So when you start talking to these fund managers about money, they're seeing it. It's already happening. You see the success of Beyond Meat. I mean, right now the market's down, everything is down, but it just went roaring to the top of the stock market because people, and now so many people are copying Beyond Meat, you know, whether it's Tyson or Hormel, and, you know, these big companies are starting to shift and add in. It's not just a meat business anymore, it's a protein business. And that's what's happening. The writing is on the wall. So yeah, we just got to keep supporting that. We got to keep talking to people we know in business and keep making it known that the culture is moving, and you guys got to keep up with it. You got to provide stuff because we'll make you rich. It's not just the vegans, believe me. It's people who just are sick of all these problems. And it's the small businesses that are saying, we can't sustain being a chicken farmer with these kind of practices. It is just grueling work, and we're going into debt. It's not paying off. These big corporations are doing us wrong. This is farmers talking, you know, farmers are suffering. And I think that the more we give them the tools and the support, then things are really shifting.
I want to thank Kathy Freston, amazing New York Times best-selling author, vegan thought leader, for taking time out of her very busy day. I know you're working like crazy online. Her book, let's see if we can get it up here. There it is, The Book of Veganish, a wonderful way to transition. And we can also tell you that you can watch New Day, New Chef. It's the Amazon Prime show. It's free if you're an Amazon Prime member. If you're cocooned at home, you can learn to implement some of the things that Kathy mentioned by checking out that show. It's super fun. And I hope you have a chance to check it out and enjoy it, Kathy. You are amazing. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Stay safe, and please get to those corporate leaders. You can tell it like no one else.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.